Julie Henricus, the Executive Director of Sisters in Crime, and I am delighted to be here on this Tuesday, and I am going to be welcoming a wonderful writer and one of our board members, K.D. Richards, and I am going to ask her, see if I can get her to join us so she can be my co-pilot on this. And let's see how we're doing here. So on Tuesdays, I or Mindy Quigley or other folks come on at 1 o'clock Eastern, and we just have a life in general. Kia is a very prolific writer, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But we're also going to be talking about, and I want to remind folks that Kia is one of, does a lot of things on the board, but she also is overseeing the SinC mentoring program, which is open for applications right now to SinC members. So I thank her for that work, because it's not, right now, it's just wait and see, but that matching is quite the process. And Kia has done it 3 times already, or twice already, and we will do it again. But Kia, thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So just to remind folks, I know Kia is Kia Dennis, but she writes as K.D. Richards. Many of our board members have 2 or 3 names. I myself have 3 different names. So, that's just part of the writing world.
It's hard keeping up with who we are.
Exactly. When we were getting somebody on the website to do author search for our members, it took him quite a while to wrap his brain around the fact that people had 3 or 4 names and that they all had to be part of the search, and that we weren't in witness protection. I mean, this is actually just part of the business. So Kia, you write in romantic suspense. And we're going to drag you on to these Instagram lives a couple other times because you have lots to talk about. But one of the things about romantic suspense that's different than mysteries with romance, and we can talk about that, and that's its own conversation, but is that readers expect them to come out in clumps, to be able to, like, every 4, 6 months, 9 months tops, read the next version, the next edition. And that means writers have to write a lot and fast.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, in general, in the romance area, arena, that's the expectation. It's 2, 3 books a year. Romance readers, they're voracious readers. So they're like Joy, they're not patient.
Well, and as a reader, I get it, but as a writer, so just to remind folks, writing a book isn't just writing 75,000 words. It's also editing it, polishing it, sending it in, getting it back so that you're in writing a new one and getting back copy edits on another one. It's a constant stream. But again, the expectations of readers in certain genres are that they're gonna get the stories.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be able to multitask for sure. You're not going to get to just work on one book and be, when that's done, move to the next. That's no, not the way for most. I mean, there's some who've really hit their stride and their readers will wait a year, but there's still like 1 book a year. And if you think about even the biggest ones, like Nora Roberts, she's Nora Roberts, she's JD Robb, she's got, she's still doing like 3 books.
Yeah.
She's still pumping them out. It's just the expectation that this is the world, and remembering that romance is the biggest genre, right? So that's where the majority of readers are,
right.
so we respond to that.
Yeah, I think that's worth an underline. Romance is the highest selling genre.
Yeah.
Mystery and crime are second, but far below. I mean, it's romance actually supports the publishing industry in a lot of ways.
We often joke that like if romance just took their chunk, romance writers would be rich.
Right.
Everybody would be. I joke with some of my romance writers, like we should just take our part and let everybody else have it.
Well, don't leave mystery. So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting also that a lot of romance has mystery elements. So romantic suspense is that, but there's also, it's not, but you're still got the tropes of the romance, whereas mystery with romance have the tropes of the mystery, but they'll have romantic elements. So they are separate,
Yeah.
but work together.
That's a great way. I've never, described it that way, but that is a perfect way to
Huh.
really break it down, right? Romantic suspense. I mean, it starts with romance, right? Or so you gotta do the romance tropes, and that's the most important part of a romantic suspense. And mysteries with romance is exactly the opposite. You're going to hit the mystery tropes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and now there are romantic suspense novels that do like half and half. So you'll hit all romance
Right.
and all the mystery. You can definitely do that. And my books tend to go more that way. I do both. But traditionally, traditional romantic suspense, um, that story is about really the romance and the falling in love in the middle of these high stakes. And
Yes.
that's what people
Yes.
care about.
Yes.
That's what those readers care about. So you have to remember what are you writing? And you can write in either one. But
Right.
when you're marketing, don't call it a romantic suspense if it's really a romantic mystery or a mystery with some romance, because
That's
the
right.
romantic suspense reader picks it up. They're not going to be
Right.
happy.
Right. Right. And tropes are not a negative, a
No.
trope is not a negative thing. Those are the rules of the road. Um,
Absolutely, every genre has tropes. Sometimes tropes gets a bad idea. The idea that you're writing by numbers or something. But every single genre has tropes. You can't get away from them, and
yeah.
readers expect it. And when they don't, they won't say, "Oh, when you don't write with the tropes." The readers won't say your book didn't have the appropriate tropes. They'll say, I didn't get it. This book was weird, or this book wasn't
I
a
know.
fantasy, or wasn't a mystery. They said it was going to be dystopian, but it wasn't. And right, that's when you get those comments because you didn't do what was expected, and what's expected are the tropes. That's just all a
Yes.
trope is expectations.
Yes, yes, and understand those expectations. Raquel Reyes is watching us live, and she asked, "Does the romantic suspense have to have a happily ever after or a happily for now?"
Yeah,
Yes, right. That's one of the
absolutely.
tropes.
If it's a series, the only caveat is if it's a series with the same characters, not like a series where you have different characters in each book. But if you have a 3-book trilogy, let's say, you don't have to have you really shouldn't have the happily ever after in the first book, because then why would I read the second, right? So if you're doing a series, then you might not have the happily ever after in the first or even the second book. But by the end of the series or the end of the book, if it's a standalone, you absolutely have to have happily ever after. That's part of what makes it a romance. If you don't have a romance. You might have a love story where the people were together for a time period and then their time ended, and that's fine. There are tons of great love story books, but it's not a romance.
Right. Right. It's not a romance. And I do think this is the other reason that these books have to come boom, boom, boom. Because if somebody's reading a trilogy and they don't get that happily ever after in 1 and 2, they're going to want 3 pretty soon.
Yeah. And I read a lot of romance, romantic suspense, everything really that I read has some romance in it because I like romance. And I'm the same way. I know, even as an author, I know that if you just publish this book in June, you can't possibly be done by the end of June with the second one. But I want it. I don't care.
I
As
know.
a reader, I want it.
Hey, listen, I've been known to like hold off.
Yeah,
To,
that's what I usually
I'll
do.
buy it and I'll hold it so that I can have a weekend of binging.
That's what I will usually do. But sometimes I'll get caught up in the hype when, everyone's talking about it and I'll read it. And then not always, but I usually regret it because I'm like, I'm going to have to wait a year before I
No,
get
I
into
know, I know. Um, I mean, that's the sweet agony, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, gosh, to love a series that much that you can't
Yeah.
wait
It
to
is
read the book, but also be so sad when it's done.
over. Yep. That's
Yeah,
how you know it's great, though.
yeah, that is indeed. So we are going to talk about being a prolific writer because it is a skill set. Even if you're a full-time writer, you
Hmm.
got life. I mean, and many books coming in. Again, remembering publishing process,
Hmm.
first drafts, second drafts, copy edits, cover, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
publicity, sell, all the stuff, all is also taking part. So talk to me about how you schedule time when if you sign a new contract and you've got 5 books in the contract, how do you schedule your time so that you can get it all done?
Yeah. Well, now I kind of have it down to a pretty good system. And I know for the most part, there are always those books that that should surprise you. But for the most part, I know how long it takes me to write 55,000 words. That's the minimum for Harlequin Intrigue, which is the imprint I write for. And I usually, as you mentioned, we do contracts are a year, maybe even 18 months in advance. And I know what I'm going to write generally, what the tropes are going to be,
Right.
what the main plot is going to be of the book. So I already have that done, and I actually do think maybe a little bit more than some about what the actual plot is going to be of the book before I pitch it to my editor. Um, because having not done that in the past, and then have to write that book and go, what did I mean? What was I? I have no idea what this book was supposed to be.
What do you mean there are 5 books in this series? I've only got
Yeah,
ideas for 3,
I said I was gonna write about that. I don't even know what that is. Now I know that I need to have, a good handle on the plot before I pitch it so that when I come back 18 months from now, I know what I was talking about. I remember generally what I said I was gonna write about, and I can get started on outlining. And so I'm a big outliner, although I do let myself go off outline quite a bit. But I start out with a pretty extensive outline, and that helps. It also keeps you when you go off track a little bit. You have to somehow bring around whatever you just did back to these beats, so you can finish the book the way you plan to do it. So that having a plan and roughly sticking to that plan
Right.
is what makes it possible. It usually takes me about 6 weeks to do to do a draft that I'm ready to send to my editor. Um, the quickest I've ever done it is 3 weeks, and I think that almost killed me. So I would that away. But it's different for different books. The longest it's ever taken is 2 months. Um, so you have to, and I write full time, so it's button chair. I get up early. I write. I stop to get the kids off to school. I start again about 9. I write until 3, and then I may pick it up again after the kids are home and fed and out of my hair.
And
um,
watered.
yes, exactly. If I need to, that happens a lot closer to the deadlines where you have to really pull it out. And then sometimes they're just long nights of you got to get it done, and you do.
And I again gonna emphasize something you said. You plot
Yes.
first. So, my friend Jessica Estavo, Jessica Ellick, she also she's coming up on her 4th name this May. But she always says that because she plots, that's the first draft. So when you're writing from your plotting, it's really solid second draft
Yeah.
because you've thought through all of the stuff. That doesn't take the magic out of the writing. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean there aren't changes, but you've internalized the story structure already.
So my outlining is actually like multi-stage. The first stage will be a rough outline, probably what most people think of an outline. The second stage, I go through each of that and then break it down into chapters, and in each one, I'll do a summary of what the chapter is. The third outline is it's really, most people would call it a draft. It's not complete by any means, but it has dialogue, it has setting, it has
Mhm.
um, action beats, it has a bunch of stuff. But but it also frees me if I don't know something. You know, if I know an action beat, I know a certain part, but not then what it comes exactly next. I'll just put like something better here. Go on, because the outline, you know, in my head is an outline, so it doesn't have to be perfect. The next draft is then what I think of as my first draft. But as you can see, like there's a lot already written,
Yeah.
right? So now I'm filling in all that great stuff. And then the draft after that is by hand. So I'll go through and I'll read it and I go, oh, that doesn't sound right. Because it does hit differently on, you know, when you're looking at it on a piece of paper than if you're looking at it on your screen. And so sometimes it's like, oh, that sounded great, you know, when I was typing it, but it does not sound good when I'm reading it, right? It doesn't, and you know your characters better.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, they wouldn't say that, because now you know, like at the end, and they're, you know, you've seen them all the way through this story at least twice now, so you know what they would say, and that's not exactly right. So, and that's what I mean. By the time I finish that draft, I can send it to my editor. I mean, there's still lots of work to be done, but I'm not embarrassed to send that off to.
Right. Right, because it's a solid draft. Now, one question as we're going back, do you have an arc over the entire series? You know, again, let's think about writing for contracts. I just had
Yeah,
another conversation with somebody for the podcast, and it's the same. You know, if you have a 5-book contract, you know you've got 5 books to tell an
yeah,
overarching story.
yeah. Um, I don't, not over the whole series, no. So
Okay.
in the Guardians of Justice series, the first 3 books are about siblings whose father was killed years when they were teens, children, and one of the brothers is investigating his murder and trying to figure out who did it. His book is the third book of the first 3, and so he appears in the first 2 with little hints and talking about the father's case, but not into the third book do we really find out what happened and get his whole story. But then the series continues on. Right now, for I think the 6th, I'm working on the 6th book in that series, and it really it's Guardians of Justice, so it's just police or firemen or law enforcement officers in this one town. So that's
Yeah.
what ties the series together. But within there is an arc in certain books.
And I do love that about romances in that they will have a series, but it can different characters can
Yeah.
play take center stage in different books in the series, and then something can tie them all together, and I just think that that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it really works for me because I think I have a little bit of ADHD, and I get bored. Like if I'm, yeah,
Yeah,
I've told that story, so I'm ready for the next. I've
yeah.
been with these guys for a few months, and what's the next? What's on to the next thing? You know.
So when you know, we've been talking about focus and things like that, and sitting down and doing this. How again, you've got a life.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if you hang a sign on the door, does the family know not to knock? I mean, how do you give yourself the space to focus? And do you write every day?
I write every day, but the caveat is I also think that like just laying on the couch, dreaming up stories is part of writing. So I consider that part, you know, I do that some days and that's all I've done that day. I consider that part of my work. It took a while to get there though. But you know, I don't think of actually typing or writing out is always work. Researching is part of
Right.
the writing. If I need to figure out how something works, that's part of it. So the answer is, yeah, I write every day, including weekends, because I think about it pretty much every single day. A story or the next story or something writing related. And as far as my kids, so they're older now. They're teenagers. So I really, they don't call me unless they want money or food at this point. They're not really looking for me. So I usually have to go track them down. But before, yeah, I mean, I would be like, I need 2 hours to work. And you know, my husband would take them away, maybe take them out of the house or just, you know, tell them to leave mom alone. She needs 2 hours. But you have to kind of set boundaries, and it's fine for, you know, they'll get us, not when they're toddlers or something, you know, I didn't write, well, that's not true. I wrote when my kids were toddlers, but I wrote on the train to work and back. I wasn't a full-time writer until my kids were in school. So that kind of helped because it gave me a big chunk of time every day that it was just me at home.
Progress over perfection too. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're, you know, waiting for a sports team, you know,
Yeah.
this shows the arts person in me. I almost said rehearsal. But
Yeah.
practice, you know, you can still
Yeah.
have your notebook or your phone and be working.
That is a wonderful time to do it. And you just have to kind of put your mind to that, because I would, I used to, okay, well, that's a good time to go grocery shopping and do this and pick up the boys that, and, you know, they need socks. But no, you know, that's when they're doing you're already doing something for them by driving them around to wherever they need to
Right.
go. While they're in there, do something for yourself, you know, right? And being willing to use, you know, write on your phone or
Yeah.
carry, if you want to carry your laptop around, or write by hand. I think that's really great. I do a lot of writing by hand too. I know that's not, you know, everyone uses technology nowadays, but I'm still a write by hand kind of girl. And then you just type it up. So, you know, be flexible and yeah, find the minutes, find the time to do it.
Find the minutes. I love to ask this question because I'm a little bit of a geek and I love, do you write in Word? Do you use Scrivener? How do you write?
Oh gosh, I use everything. Honestly, I use everything. It just depends. So if I'm struggling, or if the book is really long, or if I have plot holes, I will. So I start out writing mostly on what's it called, Notepad, like I guess notes for because it doesn't have formatting. And the formatting for me, I can get so caught up in making everything look perfect that I forget what I was going to write, and I've spent hours formatting. So I write in notes because that takes that away. And then I put it in Word. I just cut and paste it to Word. But when I'm done, my first draft, even after all of that outlining, I'm usually 5,000 to 10,000 words short of where I need to be. So, because I also do something called fast draft, where I just put it out there, which means I end up with a lot of holes because I forgot that I wanted to say something and I just didn't get around to it, or I needed to go back and put more of something in. At that point, I take every chapter and I put it in Scrivener so that I can focus one chapter at a time. What have I missed? What needs to go in here so that the next thing makes sense? And usually that gets me to the 5,000 to 10,000 words that I lost, right?
Yeah.
So I'm using multiple, and then I take it back out of Scrivener and put it into Word because I got to send it to my editor in Word. So I use everything. I used to have Google Docs in there too, but that started to screw up my editor's formatting, so they asked me to stop. So I use it all.
I find that fascinating, quick drafting, writing notes to Word, and then doing structure in Scrivener.
Yeah, and each one is for like a different part of the, like, your Scrivener is for revising. It helps me to really just focus in on one chapter at a time, and then connecting the two too, because I'm terrible at ending a chapter. Half of my chapters will be like, in this some good way. Like, that's how my first draft ends. so so now I have to go back and like, okay, well, what's coming next, and what makes sense, and what did you do, right? And it just helps me focus in, because if it's all in one document, I don't know, it's something in my brain, I just can't do it all together. It makes it easier. It makes it a bite-sized thing I can focus on and handle, and I don't feel overwhelmed. So I try to trick myself basically into thinking, oh, you only have to worry about 2,000 words. Yeah.
There you go. Tracy Clark has joined us, and she did comment earlier on and said, by hand, I just fainted. I mean, the thought, I don't know that I could read my handwriting, which is my nightmare with writing by hand. I'm quite certain it would be the most brilliant prose ever created, and I wouldn't be able to read it.
The manuscript I'm working on now, I said, I'm not going to do it by hand. You're going to do everything on the computer. And just today, I said, I can't do it. I just can't do it. So I printed it all out, and I started doing it by hand. I just can't. That final draft has to be marked up by hand. I don't know why, but that's where I think also more of my voice comes out, in that handwritten final draft. So yeah, it didn't sound like me until I started doing that.
Well, you were also a lawyer.
Yeah, I didn't write anything by hand.
You didn't, because I was going to be brilliant and say that so many lawyers take notes by hand. They're used to that, but no.
No, I think not when I was practicing, because it was also a different kind of writing. But I think it has more to do with just like being that in Gen X, beginning of millennial, where we didn't have computers when I was in high school. I mean, they existed, but so few people had them that we didn't do anything on them. And then until college, and even then, it was like, well, if you don't have a computer, you can write by hand. So a lot of my thinking is thinking to handwriting. And so that's how I think best.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people will say that too. It's the connection of the brain to the paper, that there's something that happens. And, again, I think with this conversation, there's no one way to do this. And so she is telling us how she writes 2 or 3 books a year. So let's honor her process, because it's obviously working.
Yeah, it definitely works for me. I mean, I know some authors who write the whole thing by hand, the whole first draft by hand, because that's their process.
Yeah, yellow pads.
Yeah, it does. It helps. Nowadays they have like digital tablets and digital notebooks and stuff. So even writing by hand, I have a digital notebook, and sometimes I remember to use it. But since my by hand is in the editing process, it doesn't really work as well, because you can't, as far as I know, digital doesn't work when you've already typed stuff up. So one day though, I'm sure it's coming, then I can.
Well, but at the same time, we want to, technology is great, but the human mind is actually the best part. And, I'm, as you know, anti-AI for generative work. And I think that we need to honor how people's brains work and their creativity works.
Yeah. Whatever works for you, I think, is the way to do it. Figure out the process. And I say that knowing that, like, the next book, they could all fall apart, because every single one is different. So, be open to other things as well at the same time as like doing what works for you.
Kia, I'm going to ask you one more question that we hadn't discussed, but I'm going to ask it of you anyway. When you write a series, you're world building that series and that place and the people and things like that. If you start a new series, does that slow your process down as you're world building, or how do you separate the two so that you can be, doing that and then working on the other series?
So if I'm writing um, a manuscript, the first draft of a manuscript, um, I usually won't take copy edits. I just usually plan my schedule so that if I have copy edits or other editing, I do that near where I believe I'm going to be at the end. Because when I am world building, I need to be wholly immersed in that world.
Mm-hmm.
Can't go back to some other world. It's not so bad if I'm, doing book 6 in the series and I'm getting book 3 back to copy edit it because I'm still in the same world.
Right.
But if it's a whole new, I can't do
Yeah.
2 at the same time. It's too, I've tried. I was like, okay, in the morning I'm going to be in this place. And in the afternoon I'm going to move over to this world. And I can't make the shift. I need too many hours between. And then by the time I've taken the hours, I'm like, I'm done with writing for the day. So I don't do the second part. So I've started not to do that anymore. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a hard one.
Well, none of it's easy, but thank you for sharing some of your process with us, and thank you for your service to the board of SinC Worldwide.
I enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, Kia.
Bye.
Bye.